What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Mafia, the old country, yet again. I promise you I'm not milking this, because I did declare the last video was the last time I would do this until, review scores come out, and I'm still going to do the review score thing. But look, there's been a couple new things. The length talk has just dominated social media from what I've seen. And then maybe this very potentially, okay, we don't know for sure, but seemingly this very misleading review situation is also going on. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what people are saying, and then also tell you my opinion on it, okay? So the length thing, let's just kind of rapid fire that one, because, this is something I've touched on throughout these last couple months of, I think this is a positive. I think this is a good part of the game. Now, I think there's a little bit of misleading stuff even when it comes to the length, because it's never been declared literally how long the game is. I don't want to nitpick it, okay? I'm trying not to, at least. But I see so many outlets, whether it's Twitter handles, whether it's influencers, whether it's articles saying, the length is the length is 10 hours, 10 and a half or something. And you know what they're doing, though, is they're just taking the length, I think, of Mafia 1, the how long to beat length of Mafia 1. The interview comes from late July with, I think, the head of Hangar 13 and from IGN. And all they say is it's, closely, relatable to Mafia 1 and 2. The length is in that ballpark. They never gave an exact time. So that is a nitpick, but it's just something when we're talking about, this misleading stuff that's going on with Mafia, I think that's important to throw out, because that's one of, 3 different misleading things that's going on. The length, actual time, was not ever said. It was more of a comparable. And then as for the length itself, I feel like I say it for any game that has these situations. I do like to talk about length. It's one of my favorites. I like numbers, so I do like bringing it up. But and there's always these kind of same discussions, but they're always kind of interesting to me. Again, I think this is a positive. You can want it to be this 30, 40, 50-hour thing. I do not have confidence that they'd be able to pull that off. In fact, they tried to do it with Mafia 3, and in my opinion, they failed. Now, I've said this before. People have said this in comments, and maybe it wasn't clear, but let me make it clear. I think Mafia 3 has a great story. I think Mafia 3 is still a Mafia game, still has a lot of the strengths of the Mafia franchise, but you know how that game was actually watered down? Well, I kind of just spoiled it. It's because it was too long. It was because every time you go into a new area and you had to do the same 2 to 4 things over and over and over, and it was a checklisty open world game. It stopped it from being this very consistent Mafia game. Instead, it was, the story is really good. Lincoln is really good. A lot of the characters are really good, okay? Some of the mechanics are good, and some of the missions are good, but the spacing and the consistency is not there because it's watered down by doing things 5,000 times, okay? Now, that's just a quick little explanation of 3. I'm going to do a whole video on 3 on my retrospective channel in a little bit, but point being, okay, I feel like the length is fine. They've tried the long length. It's not to say you can't have second chances. They should be allowed to if they want, but I'm going along with what they are doing and what they want to do. Look, they even say, they heard people loud and clear. People didn't like the structure of 3, but people really seem to respond to Mafia 1 Definitive Edition. That's really what steered their path. I believe that. I think that makes sense. It's a personal preference. It's something I want. I think Mafia 1 works far, far better in everything than Mafia 3 does. And a lot of it's because it's literally only 10 hours long. So I'm a fan of that length. I see so many people saying, well, 10 hours for $50. Look, everybody has their price. I think, again, this is one of the most annoying. While I like talking about it, this is probably the most annoying feature of this entire conversation. People forget this part. Everybody's got a price, okay? A 10-hour game can be $100 to me, and it could be $5 to you. I think we need to stop doing this thing where we say, okay, if a game is 10 hours, it cannot be 50. It's got to be 30 or 20. That's not how it works. And also, I think that ignores the first thing of what I just said, right? And also, I constantly default to, just because a game is 50 hours, if there's 45 bad hours and 5 really good hours, and it's, say, $50 versus this, which would you rather have? See, I would rather have 10 hours, all of the game, be insanely good versus 50 hours of the game and have, 10% of the game? 5 hours would be 10%. 10% of the game is good, the rest is fluff. That's always my default. I feel like that's a really good argument myself. And I just feel like that's what's right. I think, yeah, you can have that opinion. I don't really care. But ultimately, again, to keep saying, well, if it's $70, it needs to be 70 hours. What if 60 of those hours suck? Now you're doing 70, but 60 are bad, 10 are good. Okay, well, if I want just a 10-hour game, I want it all to be good. And then I'll pay the same price as you paid. And you're just playing a lot of wasted time versus what I'm doing. So that's my mentality. I don't really care. Again, that's the thing. It doesn't really matter. You set the price for what you want. I just don't like people saying, okay, well, because it's 10 hours, it can't be 50. That's way too high of a price. Some of my favorite games of all time that are short, I would pay triple the retail price for that game because of the quality, not because of the length. So that's something I just always say, up to the person. All right, moving on. As for the second thing, I just want to talk about these review scores. And there's kind of a back and forth thing going on online. From Mafia game videos, we'll just take his tweet. I even responded. I tried to ask him for clarification, and I'll show you what I said, his response. But he said, similar to Mind's Eye, no review copies have been sent out to content creators for Mafia the Old Country. And then all I asked was, hey, I want to talk about it. PlayStation Game Size did say people did get it, but I wanted to see his side. And then all he said is, I guess we'll find out this week. So far, no content creator has come forth saying they've received a review copy. All speculation with no sources. For the previous Mafia game, review codes went out a week before release. And that's kind of where we're at now. A couple things to talk about. When I mentioned PlayStation Game Size, so that's a person that I think is highly, highly respected. I respect that individual as well. And they had said that there were actual people that got this game back in late July, but they only got it through PC. Their 2K doesn't really do early review codes for consoles, at least not anymore. So that's what he said. He's been right a lot. Obviously, he's very, very connected. He knows stuff before pretty much anybody knows, with certain things for sure, but he knows things pretty ahead of time. So I'm left pretty conflicted on who to believe or what to say. I mean, well, actually, no, I feel good about what I'm going to say about it. Okay, one thing I do want to say is review scores going live so close to a game coming out, it really doesn't mean all that much. Back in the day, did it mean that the game was in serious trouble? Yes, it did. I'd say back in that PS3 360 era, I would say probably 2015 and before, okay? And I mean, I know when consoles came out and stuff, but and that was a generation, by the way, that I started getting into games. I really got into IGN. I would listen to all the podcasts and read everything back in 09. Maybe 8, 9, 10, and then so on. And, back then, yeah, if the game's reviews came out the day the game came out or the night before, you would say that game's going to get a 5 out of 10. And oftentimes it would. It actually would get very bad scores. Nowadays, that's not true. Nowadays, a game's scores can go live the day before, 2 days before, the day of. Yes, it can mean that it's bad, but it absolutely does not have to be. And then as for this, but I guess the thing with this whole situation is he trying to not accuse? I don't know if accusing is the right word, but is he trying to say nobody has codes to this game? So tomorrow night comes, the game comes out, and nobody has it. And also, comparing it to Mind's Eye, I think you kind of know what you're doing there when you say that. Mind's Eye, you could see coming miles away. Now, yes, Mind's Eye, truthfully, is a good example of a modern game that has that kind of situation. They're being very coy with reviews, and nobody gets it. And maybe some people get it, but they get it 2 days before, and reviews can only go live the day of, and very few people reviewed that game the day of because they didn't really give it out to many people. Why? Because it was atrocious. It's one of the worst games. It probably is the worst game this year and one of the worst games of the last 5-10 years. Probably not the worst though, by the way. Let me just throw that out there. Anyway, for a game like Mafia though, I cannot see. And you could say, well, maybe that's not what he was doing. I mean, he says similar to Mind's Eye, which is making that comparison to say, hey, remember Mind's Eye, remember what happened to that game, and remember that game didn't get codes in the same way that Mafia is not doing it. So, I don't love that. I don't think that's even remotely fair. Again, if you paid attention to Mind's Eye, like I made videos on Mind's Eye like 2 months before, and I started to call it out. You had like Luke Stevens and other people online. We started to see things, okay? And by the way, we started to see things by not seeing things for that game, and we started to piece it together. With Mafia, I mean, my dear God, they did the IGN first thing all of July. The game has looked rock solid at worst, in my opinion, and I can't see this game coming out and getting 3, 4, and 5s, out of 10. I just absolutely don't think that's going to happen. As for the rest of it, I don't know. Like, I've seen people say, okay, well, the reviews are going live pretty close to when the game comes out. I don't think that's a death sentence. In fact, I feel, because I'll sometimes get codes, not all the time, but I've gotten games where the code or the reviews, let's say, will go live a day before. I want to say, didn't Indiana Jones, like, what often happens with early access games is the reviews go live the second you can play early access. And I think Indiana Jones was like that. They gave me a code. It was one of my favorite games of last year. It's phenomenal, but reviews couldn't go live until maybe like 2-3 hours before early access started. Like if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition, you paid the extra money, you could play it 2-3 days early. The reviews went live a few hours before that. So that's not a death sentence. It really isn't. And I'm not going to read much into that. I guess, and to be fair to this guy, Mafia Game Videos, like, look, if the game releases, I think it releases tomorrow night, depending on your territory, where you are. But if it comes out tomorrow night and we go through Thursday and there's nothing, there's no reviews, then okay, I mean, what's going on? But I don't know. I feel like I'm going to trust PlayStation Game Size. I mean, they know stuff, and it's like, I don't know, people shouldn't really even be saying that they get the game in the, when you have a game and you have it early, sometimes they'll let you say it online, and most times they won't let you say it online. Oftentimes when I have games, I'm not allowed to tell people I'm playing it early. Sometimes you can like hint at it, or you can say it, but you can't talk about any, opinion of it. But I don't think it's that uncommon. So I don't know. I mean, and also like Mafia 3 was 2016. So like even that as an argument, well, like the last time a Mafia game came out, people got it a week before. That's fair. Actually, two things to that. Number one, a week before, Mafia 3 is a huge game. Mafia the Old Country is like a 10, as we just spent half this video saying, the Old Country is like 10 hours. So to get the game a week, 2 weeks, I mean, like, yeah, more time the merrier, but I mean, if they gave this game out 3 days ago, 3-4 days is enough time for professional journalists who all they're supposed to be doing is playing and talking about games. That's their profession. If they can't beat a 10-hour game in 3-4 days and make a review on it, they shouldn't be there in the first place. So I don't need the game to go out to people multiple weeks ahead of time for a game like this, a game that's very short. They don't need to do that. So we'll see. Ultimately, I mean, actually, exactly as he says, we'll see what happens. We'll see what the scores are, and we'll see, I guess, when they come out and how many people got it. I'm not really worried all that much, though. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.